And so, a decent weekend for the USMNT abroad, just USMNT in general. Not a great weekend for some of our key players, your Pulisic's, your Reynas, your McKinney's, your Balogans, but a good weekend for a lot of our supporting cast. And ultimately, guys, that's what we need. Not only our big guys to step up, but we need our supporting cast to step up. And it was a good weekend for that. How are you guys doing? What's been up with you? Can you guys believe we are 4 months into uh, 2024 already? Like, this is the last Sunday of April. We're 4 months into 2024. Time is flying. I don't love it. But how are you guys doing? What's been up? What was your best game of the weekend? What did you guys watch? I watched 8 games this weekend, and it's more than enough for me. Anyone have a good Saturday night? What's been going on with y'all? Before we start the live stream here, let's have a quick word from our sponsor, and then we'll get into it. Are we going to stream City Spurs? Doubtful. You mean next weekend? I don't believe so. No. We only stream games if it's like, there are Americans involved or they have high interest or something like that. But otherwise, I don't really do live. Honestly, I don't really do live watch-alongs anymore unless it's like US related. On the 14th, I doubt it. It's not really a Premier League channel, John Moore says Arsenal versus Spurs was very nerve-wracking as an Arsenal fan. Yeah, at least they stayed in the hunt, right? At least they stayed in the hunt for the Premier League title. Unknown Revival says, why, Pete? Why what? Why are we not streaming City Spurs? Because we don't really stream non-USMNT player games here unless they're super. I guess it's the Premier League title potentially is when that could be won. So I sort of see why. Copa America watch-alongs with Filippo, of course. Yeah, so Filippo will do the live watch-alongs. I'll do the post-game. I'll be there for the live watch-alongs. And we're also going to try to stream, guys, some of the other Copa America games. Tax will be covering Brazil. I'll be covering Argentina. We also have a couple of, Mexico and Canada, Jamaica watch-alongs, just to keep track of our CONCACAF rivals, because it could be quite fun to watch Canada, especially, bow out of the Copa America group stage. Kings of CONCACAF, they cried after winning a few games for the first time in their history. Booth is back. See, says Artie Revolver. Yeah, yes, he's back. Hopefully, he doesn't take as long this time to get back into form as he did last time when he came back from injury. Did you watch the Betis Sevilla game? Not much soccer played, lots of fights. Johnny was awesome. Yep, it just ended. Johnny was good. Johnny was great. Look, with Tyler Adams still very questionable, his health, I think we really are going to have to rely a lot on Johnny in Copa America because Tyler Adams still can't play. He's got back issues, which are almost certainly related to his hamstring. I'm telling you, it's the same nerve. Back and leg issues go hand in hand. Oftentimes when you have back issues, a physiotherapist or a doctor will go straight to your legs. So I'm worried about Tyler Adams. We need him for Copa America, even if we do have Johnny, because we need depth. We need, rotation. Tyler is almost certainly, even if he is healthy, not going to be able to play 90 minutes every game. But if Tyler is not there, I think Johnny continues to show, like he did today, that he's ready to play that 6 for us. And you could see the physicality in his game. You could see his willingness to get into tackles, to win duels, to, read the game, protect that back line, force players in safe directions. It's heartening to see, and it would lessen missing Tyler Adams. And I'm worried that we may be missing Tyler Adams. Even if he's healthy, we're definitely not be able to play him 90 minutes every game. So yeah, I don't understand why people still think Johnny is not ready to start for us. I think he is. I think he showed that. He's not only starting in La Liga, but playing well for a top 6 team in La Liga, right? And I think we should probably respect him a little bit more. Just because he doesn't run up and down the field and yell "fuck you" at people doesn't mean he's not a good 6 or not a good player. And I've had plenty of doubts about Johnny. I'll be honest. From a while back, I didn't have a strong opinion on Johnny because I don't watch the Brazilian league, so I would just trust Tak's take on it. Tak would tell me how I was doing. Great. But to now see him doing so well in probably the second or third best league in the world, and for a top 6 team is great, because we're gonna need him. We're gonna need him. Even if Tyler Adams does manage to kind of get fit in time, I don't trust it. I don't trust Tyler Adams' health right now, and it's concerning. But let us not dilly dally. Quick word from our sponsor.
New and improved pick'em game across all sports. Underdog Fantasy Sports is back with a new and improved pick'em game across all sports that makes it easy to play fantasy sports with just a few clicks. Each sport allows you to build a parlay that includes between 2 and 5 predictions about the outcomes of player projections. As you would expect, the more picks you include, the greater the potential payout. Don't go crazy with it and play responsibly, but adding a few bucks here and there to a game gives it a little more excitement and stakes. Use my promo code 11YANKS or click the link in the description to start playing, and Underdog will match whatever you put in your account up to $100. Enjoy!
And to quote Tak, no one gets rich from gambling, or whatever he says on his stream. All right. Hey, Pete, how's it going? I just got here. Is Dest officially out of the Copa America, or is the Weston gene Wolverine recovery is through Dest to help him recover fast? Yeah, he's out. He tore his ACL. And nowadays you can come back a lot sooner from ACLs than you can in the past. But I tore my ACL, and the doctor told me, like, your ACL takes 6 months to heal. So you can't even really do any sporting. You can't do much sporting anything on it for 6 months. How quickly you can come back after 6 months, a lot of it depends on your physiotherapy and how serious you are. Because, and to his credit, we saw Dest already on a bike, probably only a few days after surgery. Nowadays, they get you moving quick, because the longer that leg is not moving, the quicker your quad, especially, what's the word? D something. One of you will put in the chat where it hypertrophy. No, there's a word. It's something like hypertrophy for it. Atrophy. Duh. Atrophies. So you got to get that leg moving, because even me, my quad, on which I tore my ACL 2 years now, it's still not as big as my left quad. My right quad is still not as big, and so it really it's a huge muscle, your quad, your thigh, and it deteriorates quick. It atrophies very fast if you don't move it. And I was moving pretty, like, after surgery, I was walking around by the 3rd day, still wearing a brace, but I was walking around. And it just takes forever. But so good to see Dest on it. He's not in no way going to be there for Copa America. Minimum, you're out for 7 to 9 months. Minimum. But thankfully, we do have, I have a whole video on how to replace Dest, and it's not as terrible as it would be, if this happened 2 or 3 years ago, because we do have, guys that can also play there. So let's see here. Ready for the top 10. First up, we have Gianluca Busio from Venezia. Made it to the top 10 this week with an assist against Cremonese to help Venezia get second in the league, and in an automatic promotion spot. Tanner Tessman also played very, very well. He also created 2 chances, had 1 out of 2 successful dribbles, 1 out of 1 accurate crosses, 5 out of 13 ground duels won, 1 out of 1 aerial duels won, 2 fouls drawn, and 2 fouls committed. This was the assist, drove into midfield, had some space to play the ball in, and then, let's face it, his teammate did most of the work, ended up beating a player and finishing it. But still, well done to Gianluca Busio. My past complaints around Gianluca Busio is that he was oftentimes too passive, both on and off the ball. But this season, he does seem to be grabbing the game by the balls a little bit more and wanting to make an impact, demanding the ball, showing for it, being incisive with his passing, getting goals. He's become a lot more aggressive Not so much in the Tyler Adams way of running around and tackling and yelling fuck you at people, but more about, wanting to dominate the game and make an impact. And that's good to see. So Busio will hopefully be in the Olympic roster and, I think going to be a key player there. Right now, of course, this is still the Italian second division. We can't overhype it, but certainly seeing the progress of Busio and Tanner has been great. And, what happens next season if they do get promoted, which seems likely, can they hold on, especially to Tanner Tessman? And there's a lot of interest in Tanner Tessman. Busio, I think, may end up staying unless there's serious interest elsewhere. But I think a season battling relegation might not be terrible for Busio. All right, number 9, the oft forgotten, oft but fairly maligned Alejandro Zendejas for Club America. Played 72 minutes against Pachuca in the semifinal of the Champions Cup, the new edition of the CONCACAF Champions League. Got 1 goal in their 1-1 draw, also created 1 chance, 1 out of 1 successful dribble, 6 recoveries, 5 out of 12 ground duels won, 0 aerial duels won, 3 fouls drawn, and 3 fouls committed. Alejandro Zendejas is probably not USMNT material, let's be honest. But as a deep depth piece, at least for the next year or so, someone to keep an eye on. Personally, I would not bring Alejandro Zendejas to Copa America. There are at least 5 or 6 wingers ahead of him. And then after the Olympics, guys like Taylor Booth and Kevin Paredes and possibly even Griffin Yao could matriculate into contention to make a roster, which will make Zendejas' job even harder. And Zendejas is not young, right? He's 26. He's entering his prime now. And maybe he is just a Liga MX player, but good for him for getting this goal. Probably wouldn't have made it on another week, but it was a little quieter this week, but he did make it. This was the finish. Ball sort of bounced out to him, and he pounced on it and got the lead for Club America at home. Still one. We'll see what happens on the return leg, and also Columbus Crew versus Monterrey. Columbus Crew won 2-1 at home, but it's on tenterhooks because of away goals. They go down to Monterrey. If Monterrey wins 1-0, if Monterrey wins by 1 goal in any situation, then the Crew are out. Number 8, Christopher Robin Brady. No, that's not his name. But he had a very, very good game for everyone's favorite dumpster fire against the Atlanta United. Played 90 minutes, not only kept a clean sheet, but made 5 very good saves. Very, very good saves. His short passing was 100% accurate. Long passing was 35% accurate. I want to show you the screen grabs of a couple of these saves. This was one-on-one with Giacomakis. Now, Giacomakis, Brady saved this, and then I think Owen Wolf actually finished it. But Kumakis was offside on the actual play. And so the goal was ruled out. But either way, it was still a very nice save. He came out well, narrowed the angle, and was able to make the block. This was probably his best save of the night. A header from, maybe it was Almada, I'm not sure. A beautiful fingertip save, reaction save from close range. To be able to get down that quickly and make that stretch on a 6-yard header is extremely impressive, and it's really showing Brady's shot-stopping ability. The Chicago Fire would have lost yet another home game in a row if it wasn't for Brady in this game, and that's why he makes the top 10. This was another very good save he made off Thiago Almada's free kick. Almada curled this one into the top corner, but he was at full stretch to tip it over the bar. And then this might have been this was another very good save. It might not have been my favorite, but it was definitely close. Point blank header in the dying minutes, 1v1, and his quick reaction saves to tip it over the bar. The goal, it ended up being 0-0 with Nelkai Gonzalez. 0-0. Got the clean sheet. Literally saved a point for the Fire. So, I want to actually make an apology, all right, to the Chicago Fire, because I frequently bash them and hate on them in these streams, sometimes in jest, sometimes seriously. And I just misunderstood what the Fire are trying to do. And so now that I understand what the Fire are trying to do, They are really trying to be as incompetent and poorly organized and poorly coached and poorly run as possible in order to give Chris Brady as many reps as he can get making saves on the goal line. It is an unusual strategy, but we peons, we ticket season holder, I'm not, but the fans of the Fire must understand that the strategy that the Fire are incorporating in order to improve Brady as much as possible is not understood easily by serfs of the game. You scummy fans who sometimes won't even pay the $28 churro fee in the stadium because you do not understand what's really going on behind the scenes. But yes, a very good game for Chris Brady. Rokas Pukstas has come back and certainly has he got a hat trick in this game. 2 goals for Hajduk Split. 1 was an own goal. 2 chances created. 2 out of 2 successful dribbles. 3 out of 5 ground duels won. And 3 out of 5 aerial duels won. This was versus Rudis. Those were his 6th and 7th goals of the season for Hajduk Split. This was the first goal off a corner. Good header. He nailed it into the ground, then it bounced up and into the goal. This was a closer range header from across, which he scored a lot of goals with his head. He is still just 19 years old. It'll be interesting to see if Rokas Pukstas, who, by the way, is fighting for a spot on the Olympic roster. I think it's going to be tough just because of the midfield depth that we have in with the Olympic team. But potentially he could go as a winger, but even winger is going to get crowded now with Taylor Booth, Griffin Yao, Kevin Paredes, Cade Cowell. Hard to see where he fits. If you look at midfield, it's Busio, Tessman, Paxten Aaronson, potentially Diego Luna, Aiden Moore. Like there's a lot of competition, which is good. It's what we want. But certainly having a good season at his age with Hajduk Split. Emmanuel Sabi. Now, what a story. Emmanuel Sabi might have had one of the worst USMNT debuts in history. I don't know if you guys remember last year, not this year, but last year in the Camp Cupcake, he came on for about 20 minutes and looked like he didn't know how to play soccer. It was that wild. Mostly been hovering around the Swedish and Danish leagues for most of his career, and then oddly got this move to Le Havre in Ligue 1. Played 89 minutes and got an assist against Paris Saint-Germain. 0 out of 2 successful dribbles, 5 out of 10 ground duels won, 1 out of 2 aerial duels won, and 1 foul drawn. The assist was not like, an amazing assist, but he did well to turn away from pressure and feed the teammate who scored the opening goal. So good on Emmanuel Sabi. Similar to Zendejas, probably not USMNT quality of any sort, but if you're getting goal contributions in a top 5 league, you're going to be in contention for top 10. Joshua Sargent. Yet another goal against Swansea this weekend. A great header. Also missed 2 big chances. Let's not skate past that. But 1 out of 4 successful dribbles. 3 out of 8 ground duels won. 1 out of 4 aerial duels won. 2 fouls drawn and 2 fouls committed. Now, Joshua Sargent has now 18 goal contributions on the season, 16 goals and 2 assists. And not only are those numbers impressive on their own, but they're more impressive when you realize that due to his 4-month injury, he's only played 1,848 minutes so far this season. So on average, he is getting 1 goal contribution for every 90 minutes played. And the championship is not a league where you can just beat up. It's not like the Eredivisie where you can just beat up on the bottom 5 teams in StatPad. You have to earn everything in the championship. It's extremely competitive. The quality might not always be the best, although I think it's getting better. But the speed of play, the intensity is shaping Josh Sargent into a man. And I said this on Twitter the other day, but I think it's going to be very, very difficult, near impossible to leave Josh Sargent out of the Copa America roster. I just don't think with his skill set and his goal scoring ability, there's a way that you can leave him off. Now, let me play devil's advocate for a moment. The big argument against Josh Sargent with the national team is that his past performances with the national team have generally not been good. He's very goal shy with the national team. And that sort of works against him. He's not like Pepe, who has delivered multiple times for the national team. That being said, it's been a while since Josh Sargent's really had a chance with the national team. The World Cup really being the last time he got a true chance. And I think his form and his confidence and his ability to deliver under pressure certainly warrants him another spot. Which then, okay, makes us go, what about the other strikers? There's Haji Wright, there's Ricardo Pepi, and there's Fuller and Balogun. Now, Haji Wright you can bring as a winger, so that's not a problem. Okay, we need more wing depth. He's played as a winger for Coventry, so he's a lock for the roster. Now, up top, there's Ricardo Pepi, Josh Sargent, and Fuller and Balogun. If the roster is only 23, you can't really afford to bring 3 strikers. Now, some people will say, Balogun's in terrible form, drop him from the roster. I understand that argument to a degree, but Balogun has certain qualities that I don't think we can afford to ignore, even though he is having somewhat of a bad season in France. I still think we have to bring him. I'm not saying you start Balogun, but I think because of the quality that we know he has, even though he's going through a bad patch of form right now, I still think you have to bring him. Now, Ricardo Pepi isn't getting much game time for PSV, but largely when he has played for them, he's delivered. The problem is, and he also has generally delivered for the national team. So who do you kick out? My solution would be, instead of bringing Brendan Aaronson as your 4th winger, just bring Josh Sargent. We know Josh Sargent can play on the wing. He's done it before. He's there to play as a forward if necessary, as a winger if necessary, right? And I don't see what Brendan Aaronson at this point brings to the team apart from being a runner. And believe me, from a defensive point of view, Josh Sargent can do everything Brendan Aaronson can do, pressing, tracking back. And if you're defending late in the game, which would be the only reason to bring on a Brendan Aaronson type, Josh Sargent is also very useful in the air if you're defending set pieces, where Brendan Aaronson is not. So for me, the overall upside is you bring Haji Wright and Josh Sargent as backups to Weah and Pulisic, and then you bring Pepi and Balogun as your forwards. And now you have multiple options there. BMR says Brendan is better at carrying the ball forward. I actually disagree. I mean, if you're talking about pure dribbling in space, maybe. But the minute Brendan Aaronson comes up against an opponent, he turns back and needs a few seconds to recover his balance. And so I honestly, look, I know he had a few good games for Union Berlin, but then I watched him again today. He seems to be back to the old Aaronson. And you don't bring Josh Sargent for his dribbling ability, right? You bring Josh Sargent for his goal-scoring ability, his aerial prowess, his hold-up play, his link-up ability, and his defensive work rate. John Moore saying, I think it's a waste of Sargent to put him on the wing, bring Pepi to Olympics, keep Josh Sargent as the striker. And that may end up being what's happening, right? They may end up just sending Pepi to the Olympic team, which, to be honest, I also wouldn't hate because that Olympic team needs a striker. And I think Pepi is really the missing piece for that team. So I guess we'll see what happens. But Sargent, I would be very, very surprised if Berhalter leaves him off the Copa America roster. And if he brings Brendan Aaronson over him, I will be disappointed. But nothing new with Greg Berhalter. This was the goal. A really nice, well-placed header. He had to stretch for this. The cross came over him. He had to run to get behind it, and even then had to jump and try to redirect his header into the far corner, which he did beautifully. That's a very, very difficult finish. A lot harder than it looks. Ariz Alam says, Pepi modeled the USA Olympic jerseys for Nike recently. Does that basically insinuate him going to Paris? That is what I would guess, right? Yeah, it would be weird for him to model those jerseys if he's not actually going. Ben Wheeler says, not taking Pepi to the World Cup and Copa America is such a slap in the face to him. So, Ben, I agree with you about the World Cup, but let's talk about this for a second. Not bringing him to the World Cup was a huge, huge mistake, right? We all know this. We ended up bringing Jesus Ferreira instead. And so, yeah, that was, I think, the wrong decision from Greg. The problem now is there are many more options. Nobody should be granted a free pass on the national team, right? If there's competition, right, you have to fight for your spot. And so, as much as I love Pepe, and I still think he could deliver for us, I wouldn't be that mad if he was left out of Copa America for Sargent, Balogun, and Haji, because, to be the starter in Olympics would also be very good for his career. Now, hear me out. There's a chance, because of Greg's relationship with Ernie Stewart and the fact that PSV aren't even really using Pepe that much, let him go to both tournaments. They might let him go to Copa America and then also to Olympics, which would be the ideal solution, in my opinion. But I don't know what's going to happen. I guess we just have to wait and see. All right. Christopher Richards. What a week it's been for Christopher Richards. First up against Newcastle, helped them to keep a clean sheet, played 90 minutes, also created one chance, 3 passes into the final third, 2 out of 4 accurate long balls, 6 clearances, 5 recoveries, 1 out of 3 ground duels won, 2 out of 4 aerial duels won. All right, so a clean sheet against Newcastle is nothing to sniff at. Then this weekend, he also played again very well against Fulham in their 1-1 draw. 6 passes into the final third, 3 out of 11 long balls, 2 out of 2 tackles won, 7 clearances, 1 block, 4 recoveries, 3 out of 4 ground duels won, 5 out of 6 aerial duels won. I put this on Twitter the other day, but what I find quite interesting watching Chris Richards this week is just how crisp his passing into midfield is. And it almost feels like a different player compared to when he plays for the national team. Because when he plays for the national team, his passing is so timid and safe. But this week I've been watching him again, and it just reminded me that he has the ability to pass the ball, to make incisive line-breaking passes into midfield. He just needs to, I don't know if it's the confidence or if it's the coach's instructions or whatever it is with Berhalter, that he doesn't do it. He tends to play it very, very safe and be very timid. And if we're going to be successful in Copa America, we're going to need him to be the distributing center back that we know he can be, right? Paxten Aaronson got a brace today for the already relegated Vitesse Arnhem in their 3-2 win over Fortuna Sittard. Played 90 minutes, scored 2 goals, 2 out of 4 successful dribbles, 0 out of 3 accurate crosses, 2 out of 2 tackles won, 5 out of 11 ground duels won, 1 out of 4 aerial duels won, 1 foul drawn, 2 fouls committed. This was the first goal. That was a good cross, good finish with his left foot. I have not seen the second goal. I looked everywhere. I searched Twitter. There's no video of it. I searched YouTube. There's no evidence of it whatsoever because it just happened today. Y-Scout won't have it out until tomorrow. So unfortunately, I do not have a sketch of the second goal. But for those of you who are on Patreon, it will be included in tomorrow's Patreon video breakdown. $3 a month if anybody wants to subscribe. All of the top 10 will be there in video format because I can't do that on YouTube. Do I think he will go back to Frankfurt next season? I don't know. I think it depends if they feel like his progress has been enough. It is a jump, right, from the Eredivisie to the Bundesliga. It is. And it's not like he's tearing up the Eredivisie. But maybe, he goes back on loan to somewhere else in the Eredivisie for another 6 months. And then they sort of monitor his progress from there. But progress is there. He's getting game time. He's contributing. And that bodes well for his Olympic and our Olympic hopes. Because I do think He's one of the pure 10s on one of the only pure 10s on the team, depending on whether or not we bring Diego Luna, right? Because Luna hasn't had the best of seasons, to be honest. But let's see. Let's see what happens. Number 2, Timothy Weah. Like Chris Richards, had a great week. Got an assist versus Lazio in the Coppa Italia. And not only was it an assist, it was the game-winning assist, the tie-winning assist of the tie, the home and away tie. Taking Juventus, into the Coppa Italia final. And a nice finish it was. And then he came over to, he started at right wing back against Milan. Played 71 minutes, one chance created, 0 out of 2 accurate crosses, 0 out of 1 accurate long balls, 3 out of 5 tackles won, 5 out of 7 ground duels won. But most importantly, he was locking down, what's his name? Rafael Leao, doing really well defensively. How come Weston didn't play? That's a different story. I think that as he played, he just didn't start. He locked down Rafael Leao, which is no small feat, and maybe a short glimpse or a quick glimpse into what he could potentially do this summer with Dest out. But I would not want him to play as a pure right back. I would want him to play as a wing back for us in a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-2-1. But we all know Greg Berhalter loves the 4-3-3 even more than he loves his wife, because he has never kicked the 4-3-3. Has he? Greg will still put Shaq Moore there, says TZA. So Shaq Moore is actually injured. Shaq Moore will not be back from his hip injury, according to FOTMob, until mid-May. So I think the chances of Shaq Moore going now are even slimmer than they were before. The other option that you could see Greg going with maybe is DeAndre Yedlin. But DeAndre, I don't know if he... I think he got injured on the weekend. Are there any Cincy fans who know how bad the injury was? Either way, guys, neither of them should be there. And no Griffin Dorsey fans, he should not be there either. And no, Brooks Lennon should not be there. It should be Scally plus any one of Musa, McKennie, Weah, Adams if he's free, if he's fit, Richards potentially. But no, please, no, none of these MLS right backs. Sorry, Colin. Colin gets really mad whenever I criticize an MLS player. He's just in the comments. All right. This was the assist, by the way. Nice little first-time cross. I'm still not 100% sure if he was trying to shoot this or if he was putting it into space for Vlahovic. But either way, Vlahovic saw that what was happening and made the run to the far post and finished it nicely. So whether he intended to or not, it was the tie-winning assist, and I hope they can win. I hope that they can win Coppa Italia so that Wes and Tim Weah can win a trophy. Now, there's rumors, while we're on the topic of Weah, that both Aston Villa and Everton... Oh, it's Milik. I'm sorry. Thank you. It was not Vlahovic. It was Milik. Milik. I personally think our guy should stay out of the Premier League. The Premier League is very, very punishing. You have very little time and space. It's not necessarily the best league in the world, but it is definitely the fastest and most punishing league in the world. And I just don't think the Premier League is a good idea for Tim Weah. If he goes there, great. I'll be rooting for the guy. But, I mean, maybe as a right back, as a winger, I think he should try to stay somewhere in, Germany, France, Spain even, Italy. I don't know. The Premier League for our American guys, I just don't think, unless you're a goalkeeper and a really good goalkeeper, I think they should stay out of the Premier League. It's very, very punishing league. And unless even Christian Pulisic, who is, a top 2 player for us, probably our best player, even he struggled at times in the Premier League for lots of reasons. But the rush to go to the Premier League, I know some of us like that, maybe because we can see them more. I just don't think, center backs is one thing. So like a Chris Richards, Tim Ream, that's fine. I'm just not sure about I'm just not sure about Tim Weah. Like this guy's, his production numbers have been quite poor almost everywhere he went. Let's keep that in mind. And the Premier League is a major step up. Last but not least, Malik Tillman, PSV Eindhoven's Malik Tillman, got 2 goals and 1 assist against Heerenveen this week. 1 out of 2 successful dribbles, 1 out of 2 accurate long balls, 7 out of 13 ground duels won, and 4 fouls drawn, not 43. We love Malik, but 43 fouls would be a lot. This was his assist. Nice little through ball for, I think it was Gus Till or Joey Veerman. I'm not sure. And then he went and finished it nicely after that. This was the goal. He was on the ground and the ball was loose and he tucked it into the back of the net. The other goal might have been, excuse me. The other goal might have been the easiest goal he ever scored. Good header at the far post. Let me just grab a Ricola, guys. Sorry, my throat is killing me. Great game from Malik Tillman, and what a season he's having. I believe he just matched Christian Pulisic now for like the most goal contributions of any American this season with 21. So we'll see if he beats him. Of course, it's a different league, so you can't quite compare it. But yeah, I mean, the next step for Malik is going to be can he deliver? Can he deliver for the national team? Because that's been his problem. He hasn't delivered for the national team, and he's going to need to start doing that sooner rather than later. As far as the summer, where he goes next and what he does, I have no idea. Maybe a loan to a Bundesliga team, like a mid-table Bundesliga team could be interesting. I don't think he's quite ready for Bayern. Let's, keep that in mind. But certainly needs to push himself. Go to a higher level, right? Go play in the Bundesliga now. Alex Turner, this is quite a take. So you're saying you want our guys to avoid playing at the toughest level. Scared? Get a dog. All right. So, Alex, it's not that you want them to avoid playing at the highest level. You always want them to be pushing themselves, certainly. But you want them to push themselves at a level that challenges them, but is not so far above them. Or you also want them to push themselves at a level where they can be successful, right? It's not just like, let's go. Otherwise, let's send Brad Guzan to Manchester City because we want him to push himself. No, that's nonsense, right? It's about pushing yourself at a good level and then finding, maybe something that is just above your level so that it can push you. But oftentimes, if you go to not just a level that is too high above you, but also a league that doesn't really suit your style of play, then it can hurt your career more than anything because you get benched. And when you are on the field, you're not playing to your strengths. And so that's something to keep in mind. So yeah, like McKennie also said playing in Italy helped him to be more tactically aware. Yeah, I mean, look, McKennie was a failure at Leeds, let's be honest, right? But is thriving for Juve. Gio Reyna's a very, very good player. He's struggling at Nottingham Forest. There are lots of our guys, the Premier League really just doesn't suit them. And it's okay to say that. It doesn't mean you're scared or have to get a dog, Alex. Although if that's your response to fear, make sure it's a rescue. Because there are a lot of good dogs out there that need love. All right. And then we have the bench. Quinn Sullivan got an assist for the Philadelphia Union on the weekend. Timothy Tillman got a goal for LAFC. Duncan Maguire got a goal for Orlando City. Ben Kramaski got a nice goal. Well, a goal. A goal for Inter Miami. Had some promising play, though. Darren Yappy got a goal for the Colorado Rapids. And Patrick Schulte had a clean sheet for the Columbus Crew. So, almost all promising young MLS players, except for Tim Tillman, who is not young, but having a good season. 4 goals and 2 assists so far for LAFC. So, good for them, guys. It's, just hopefully these guys. Ben Kromaski is an interesting one because he's sort of committed to the USA. Yappy didn't score. I thought he did. Am I wrong on that? I got the notification saying he scored, and I saw the goal. Let me double check this. You're right. He did not score. All right. I am incorrect. It was not Yappy. It was Bombito. Why did they tell me it was Yappy? Did FOTMob? And then I saw a goal too. Maybe I am wrong. Well, my bad. So Ben Kromaski said he talked to Javier Mascherano, who is the Argentina under-20 coach, and he said that he told him the truth, whatever that means. I think what that means is like, look, buddy, you can try to play for Argentina, but we have lots of guys that are better, or as good at your age. So honestly, if you want to play internationally, you have a better shot with the USA. And Ben was like, yeah, that's fair. And then I saw a few takes on Twitter saying that this was a big miss for Argentina. It is not a big miss for Argentina. Ben Kromaski is a promising player, and it'll be interesting to watch his development, but Argentina has like 5 of him every year in their league. So they're not missing out on Ben Kromaski. We can enjoy the fact that he chose us, or, is stuck with us, let's be honest, but let's not overhype them too much. All right, so that is the top 10 for the week, guys. Who will you replace Yappy with? I guess Georgi Mihailovic got the assist on the Bombito goal, so we could give it to Mihailovic, technically. Trying to think if there's anyone else. Jordan Morris, everyone's favorite. Balogun technically got an assist, guys, but it wasn't really an assist. It was a cross that sort of bounced off of him, and then Wissam Ben Yedder finished it. Balogun had such a poor game, they pulled him off at halftime. So you can't make the top 10 playing like that. And an accidental assist and playing poorly. Not going to cut it. Not going to cut it, Flo. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Ben White scored again. You know who's still scoring, Derek? What's his name? Terrence Boyd. I still get FOTMob notifications for Terrence Boyd. And every time I do, I think of Berlin Amerikaner. He was a huge Terrence Boyd advocate up to about a year ago. I think saying we needed to bring Terrence Boyd to the World Cup. So every time I see Terrence Boyd now, I think of Berlin Amerikaner. I don't know if you're in the chat, Berlin Amerikaner, but I miss you and your intense love for Terrence Boyd. No call-in show today, BMR. I don't really have the time today. Guys, Monday night, Derek and Brett are always live. What time? You go at 8 p.m. Eastern, right? Is he in the 6th tier of Germany now? Good Lord. Griffin Dorsey missed the top 10. Wow, I'm shocked. I know. Should be a starter in Copa America, guys. Griffin Dorsey, FTW. 8:15. So, guys, go tune in to the Straight Red Card at 8:15 tomorrow for their weekend recap and lots of fun and games. 7. Timothy Chandler. Is he even playing for Frankfurt anymore? He's not. But I saw that he renewed his contract. Julian Vivas says, Musa had a good game, according to FOTMob. I think Kromaski is good enough. I don't think Kromaski is good enough for the USMNT either, to be honest. So I try not to use FOTMob to rate a player's performance. I know I use stats from FOTMob in order to talk about their performance, but if you watched Musa play for Milan, he was good on the dribble, but once again, his final ball and his decision-making in the final third was not great, was poor. I think the best way to get Musa on the field this summer is to play him at right back, because I don't think he's a starter in our midfield. Even if Tyler Adams is not there, you start Johnny at the 6, Weston at the 8, Gio at the 10, and you start Yunus Musa at right back. Ben Kremaski, yeah, he's not good enough for the USMNT, certainly not now, right? I mean, who is he going to play over in that 10 position? It's Gio and Malik, and after that, it's probably Paxten. Paxton's probably in the next 10. And to be honest, Luca De La Torre is probably ahead of Paxten too. Like, Luca De La Torre might not be a pure 10, but he's a better 10 right now than either Paxten or Kremaski. So Kremaski might not even make the Olympic team, and you could argue that Gianluca Busio is ahead of him at the 10, right? Maybe even Diego Luna. Like, I don't know. Like, let's just pump the brakes on Kremaski. He just got back from injury, and let's see how he looks this season. But, I think people were hyped about him because he got called in one time to an under-20 Argentina roster for friendlies. But Argentina doesn't really want him, and I think we have to look at his actual play on the field and not, be like, oh, he's a dual nat, so he must be better than he is. Booth just needs to find form again. He just came back from injury, which is good news, Aris, but he needs to start finding form because Griffin Yao is out here challenging him for that Olympic spot. All right, guys, we did 45 minutes. Have a great week. We'll have a great Sunday. Have a great week to come. Patreon video will be out tomorrow. Thank you to Bet Online, one of our sponsors, for helping to sponsor the channel. Thank you to Underdog for sponsoring this stream, and have a great week.